Part 151. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1511. For each other, for the future, for eternal life. Today's forbearance and trials are nothing. When there is another person in this world, everything is completely consistent with oneself, then even if it is struggle and hard work, it is full of strength. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow Yanji Shenyang. Love is the most powerful driving force in this world. Even if you suffer and are tired, you can look back and see that there are people accompanying and caring for you, and your heart will be full of strength and hope. The suffering in front of you is nothing at all. He became a god from a mortal, and in this huge heavenly palace, he caused such a storm and fell into many passive situations. Now it can be called a desperate situation, but there are people around him who accompany him to face it together. Wu Yu is already very confident. And Luo Bin, with Wu Yu by her side, she can't be without confidence. Although this time is extremely dangerous, in fact, they are very relaxed. After comparing all the details several times, listing all possible events, and thinking of hundreds of coping strategies, Wu Yu and Luo Bin set out on the road back to the Xianlong Emperor realm. This time, it was equivalent to stepping onto the battlefield side by side. If they succeed, they can get rid of the desperate situation and gain a long period of peace. If they fail, they will be completely defeated, and even the identity of Chifeng Xianjun will be dug out, and they will be completely finished. Of course, Wu Yu has a great hope of success. Especially with Luo Bin accompanying him, this hope is even greater. It was several months later that he returned to Longshenchen. During this period, he happened to be urged by the Heavenly Dragon King again, asking him to kill Wu Yu quickly and take Luo Bin back. They all wanted to know what Luo Bin's current situation was. When she was reported back that she defeated Tianjian Dragon King, it was estimated that many people were shocked. Even the Heavenly Dragon King issued an ultimatum. If it doesn't work, I'll send other Dragon Kings. Now, Luo Bin has changed. It is very likely that she has become a top genius by accident. For Tianyi Dragon King, this mortal husband Wu Yu is a pure burden and it is best to kill him. He also warned Tianjian Dragon King not to hurt Luo Bin. After receiving the communication fairy talisman, Wu Yu replied, saying that it has been done here and he will return as soon as possible. He was concise and there was no loss or hesitation in his words. With the character of Tian Dragon King, it is impossible for him to tell in advance that such a big thing has happened, and it is also his responsibility. However, in order to protect Luo Bin's safety, Wu Jun and others must be present at the time, so they have considered about when and how to break such news. Appearing on the land of Longshenchen, Wu Yu and Luo Bin are already a different look. Among them, Wu Yu is already the Sky Dragon King. The Sky Dragon King is dressed in white, with an ethereal temperament, very outstanding, and his eyes are dull, but not stupid, but a kind of deep indifference. However, because of a big thing that happened and he was about to be criticized, his eyes were slightly red, his expression was serious and murderous, and of course there was some hesitation and helplessness. He was considered to have performed the mood of the Sky Dragon King quite well. As for Luo Bin, she couldn't reveal the truth. At this tense moment, she hypnotized herself, assuming that Wu Yu was really dead, and now she was arrested and returned to the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm. How would she feel? From the outside, Luo Bin at this time had a dull look, lost her soul, and didn't have much life. It was difficult to see such a sense of decline from her. Such a combination appeared here in Longshenchen, which can be said to be a bit strange. Outside the well of eternal life in Dragon God Heaven, a large number of dragons saw that this was the eldest son of the 100th Dragon King of the Tianxing clan, the Dragon King of Tianyi, and the eldest grandson of the Dragon Emperor of Tianxin. They immediately knelt down respectfully and saluted the Dragon King of Tianq. They clearly felt the evil spirit of the Dragon King of Tianq, so they did not dare to approach. Tiank, haha, what a coincidence, I met you here just after entering, someone recognized him. Wu Yu looked up and saw that this was the Golden Fate Dragon King who controlled the Dragon God Heaven. He usually presided over the overall situation in the Golden Fate Dragon City. The last time the Dragon King of Tiank left, he stayed here for a day and drank with the Dragon King of Jinming. At that time, Tianjian Dragon King and others were also present. At this time, the Golden Dragon King saw that it was the Dragon King of Tiank who returned with Lupin. In addition, the Dragon King of Tiank was obviously in a bad mood. He put away his smile, came to the Dragon King of Tiank, and said, "Brother, what's going on? Where are Tianjian and the others?" Wu Yu waved his hand and said, "Something happened. I will go back to the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm to see my father first. Let's talk next time." After that, he dragged Lupin away violently, without stopping at all, leaving the Golden Dragon King and his tribesmen looking at each other. "Boss, what is the Dragon King of Tiank?" A fairy next to him asked in surprise. The Golden Fate Dragon King pondered and said, "Something big has happened." His expression has never been so heavy before. Remember last time he said that they were going to capture a man named Wu Yu for Tianming. Now only Luo Bin and him are back. Maybe something happened to Tianming? Or the other two? Tianming Dragon King. That's a big deal. They are all grandsons of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. They were all speculating that the Golden Fate Dragon King was going to go out, but now he decided not to leave and stay in Longshenchen to see what happened. On this side, Tiank Dragon King had already pulled Luo Bin all the way into the Golden Fate Dragon City, and then went to the entrance of the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm. All the dragons, seeing the Tiank Dragon King, hurriedly bowed their heads and saluted, but Wu Yu was too evil now, and after he passed by, they were all a little confused. Soon after, Wu Yu dragged Luo Bin into the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm with doubtful eyes behind him. After entering, go straight to the Heavenly Will realm. After he came in, he sent a messenger talisman, which read, "Father, I'm back and I'm going to the realm of God's will immediately. Something happened, don't tell my aunt and uncle yet." This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. This is what Tiank Dragon King did in a reasonable manner after the incident. After he finished sending it, Luo Bin also sent out a messenger talisman, which read, "I am in the realm of heaven's will, come and help me." Wu Yu killed Tianjian, Tianli, and Tianming. I was brought back by the Dragon King of Tiank. Wu Yu, dead. This matter was of great importance. Although Wu Yu didn't want to hide it from Wu Jun and the others, after all, Wu Jun and the others were not very familiar with Wu Yu. They still couldn't let them know about the sky-swallowing giant beast, so they had to hide it from them. We must make them feel that Wu Yu is really dead. Otherwise, it may be exposed. Therefore, Wu Yu could only say sorry to the three of them in his heart. Maybe in the future, they can understand. Now, Wu Yu needs them to protect Luo Bin. Otherwise, she is indeed dangerous. Luo Bai sent this messenger talisman as if she had sent it when the Tiank Dragon King wasn't paying attention. It was too late for the Tiank Dragon King to intercept it. Logically speaking, the Tiank Dragon King would also teach Luo Bin a lesson, but there was no one around now, so he used the Tiank Dragon Palace to suppress her, and with a fierce look on his face, he controlled her to fly towards the Heavenly Will realm. Next, the drama begins. Wu Yu fully integrated into the identity of Tiank Dragon King and entered into the current panic. He knew that Lu Bi had sent out the messenger talisman, so he had to quickly communicate with Tiank Dragon King alone. He could not tell Tianyu Dragon King about this matter yet. And Tianying Dragon King. A ray of white light flew towards the Heavens Will peak in the Heavens Will realm, where the Heavens Will Dragon King was. After receiving the messenger talisman, he was afraid that something was wrong. Although the Tian Dragon King wanted to cover it up quickly, the news of his return still attracted the attention of many people. A Dragon King saw him along the way and greeted him, but the Tian Dragon King ignored him. Even after he entered the world of Heaven's Will, he was still like this, which aroused the suspicion of many Dragon Kings. What's going on in Tiank? Are you in a hurry? Something's wrong. He looks a little nervous. Something big may have happened. He doesn't even bother to say hello to us. Didn't he go out with a few younger brothers and sisters before? Why did he come back alone? The dragon he brought with him should not be Tianli Longjun. I don't know. Do you want to follow him and have a look? He seems to be going to Tianyi Peak. Just go and take a look, it's okay anyway. The faster the Tian Dragon King thinks, the more movement there will be, attracting a lot of attention. This is a manifestation of his panic. If he can calm down, he should return quietly. After Wu Yu also thought about it, he definitely went back like this, which can better reflect the chaos of Tian Dragon King. The time for the real test has arrived. He took a deep breath or two, and looked at each other with Luo Bin. Both of them saw the power in the other's eyes, and then concealed it. One completely became the Dragon King of Tiank, and the other completely became Luo Bin who had lost Wu Yu. Superior. The two set out on the battlefield together. Father. The Tiank Dragon King, holding Luo's concubine hostage, rushed into the Tianyi Peak, which is one of the largest peaks in the entire Tianxing clan. It is very high. Usually, only the Tianyi Dragon King himself would be here. On the top of the peak, a huge and stretching white divine dragon coiled around the mountain. When he received the messenger talisman from Wu Yu, he had already woken up from his practice. His eyes were indifferent and he looked in the direction Wu Yu came from. In the blink of an eye, Wu Yu stared at the huge pressure, dragged Luo Bin, and crawled in front of the God's Will Dragon King. He now looked like the ancient immortal Dragon King, but his body was smaller than the God's Will Dragon King. In fact, the Dragon King Tianyi has always been quite satisfied with his son, but in recent times, he has been a little dissatisfied. It seems that something happened this time. Seeing him returning in such a hurry, and only bringing his concubine, the Dragon King Tianyi felt a pang in his heart. Hey, he can often tell something from people's expressions. Luo Bin was heartbroken and lost her soul. The Tian Dragon King seemed calm, but in fact, his inner turmoil was almost beyond what he could bear. The Heavenly Dragon King raised his huge dragon head, stared at his son, and asked, "What is it that makes you panic?" Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1512. With his teachings, he teaches his children that they need to be calm when encountering big problems, not to panic, and only by being calm can they make perfect decisions. Therefore, at this time, the Tian Dragon King seemed to be calm, but in fact, his heart was in a state of confusion, which allowed the Heavenly Dragon King to see it. In fact, this is not a fight. Wu Yu understands the Dragon King Tianyi. Now he is not really flustered, but deliberately flustered. Under the questioning of Dragon King Tianyi, Wu Yu quickly lowered his head. Even if he broke out in a cold sweat, he tried to stay calm and said concisely, "The child deserves death." He was careless against the enemy. He used the lost battle realm to capture and severely injure Wu Yu, controlling his life and death. Tianjian, Tianli, and Tianming left the protection to kill him personally, but I allowed it. Unexpectedly, when Wu Yu was about to die, he used the forbidden immortal method, 3 lives of silence and death of souls, and in an instant, inside, all 4 of them disappeared into thin air. I made a big mistake due to my carelessness, and I don't know what to do. His words were filled with anger, and after he finished speaking, the dragon's head was buried on the ground, with tears streaming down his face. What? Even Tianyi Dragon King shuddered for a moment, and then his eyes widened. He stared at Wu Yu. The huge body left the winding mountain peak and came to Tian Dragon King. He almost roared, "You tell me, Tianjian, Tianli, and Tianming were all killed by Wu Yu's counterattack because of your carelessness." "Yes, father. However, I had the instinct to kill Wu Yu. It was Tianjian and the others who had a grudge and wanted to humiliate Wu Yu and make him pay the price. I just relaxed for a moment and did not expect that the other party would have such a vicious method. He wants to die together, Tianjian and the others are approaching, and I can't stop them at all." Damn it, the Tianyi Dragon King's huge dragon tail slapped Wu Yu's body hard. With a snap, Wu Yu's whole body was almost shattered. The Tian Dragon King has been tough since he was a child. At this time, Wu Yu also tried hard to climb up. He stood up and said, "The matter has come to this. I don't know how to face my aunt and uncle. Please ask my father to clarify whether I need to die to repay them. After all, this time, they feel free to let them out because of me." "Shut up." Tianyi Dragon King's eyes were red, and his huge chest was heaving. He was obviously extremely angry. He had also met Wu Yu before and knew that this guy had many tricks and was very tough and vicious. Once forced to the extreme, he would do something like this. His choice was normal. He originally thought that his son was in the realm of the 3-day Immortal King and could obviously eat Wu Yu easily. Unexpectedly, such a change occurred. This was not only the carelessness of Tian Dragon King, but also his own carelessness. He stared at Tian Dragon King and breathed heavily. Now that things had happened, Tianyi Dragon King knew that anger was useless and he needed to find a solution. After all, it was not his son who died. He was angry, but it was impossible to say that he was heartbroken. "You have taken control of Wu Yu, and the other party is seriously injured and dying. It is God's warning that they will retaliate. If you kill him with one sword, you will not be relieved. You will humiliate the other party, so you will cause a fatal disaster. Your fault is all due to carelessness and negligence. Above responsibility. If we want to say that the real person responsible is Wu Yu, he is the one who killed Tianjian Longjun and the others. But now the key is that Wu Yu died together. This kind of thing is the most irritating, because you don't know who to seek revenge from. I cannot absolve myself of the blame," Wu Yu struggled to say. Now he was covered in blood and his face was covered in blood. He looked very miserable. There was some commotion during the punishment just now, and now there are many people outside Tianyi Peak. The eyes of the Dragon King Tianyi changed for a long time, and finally he sighed and said, "Don't be stupid. Although it is your responsibility, it is also their fate. However, there is no way to hide this matter. As for your fate, well, that depends on your uncle and aunt. Don't worry, I won't let you die, but punishment is inevitable. After all, the Dragon King of Heavens will actually protects the Dragon King of Tiank, which is the same as Wu Yu's desire. As long as he survives, he will definitely take the responsibility on himself as much as possible, so as to divert people's attention from Luo Bin. And it was impossible for the God-willed Dragon King to let his son be buried with him. In this way, taking the initiative to take responsibility also shows the courage of Tian Dragon King. At least in the Tianxing clan, the Tianyi Dragon King has always had higher requirements for himself. After all, he still has the Tianxin Dragon Emperor, and he needs to show it to the Dragon Emperor and the Dragon Master. Now that things have come to this, I will try my best to avenge your life, but there is no way to shirk the responsibility and punishment, you know, God's will, Dragon King warned. I know. I will never bring shame to my father because of this. I will bear all the responsibilities that I should bear, Wu Yu said solemnly. What he is playing now is absolutely suitable for the identity of Tian Dragon King. After all, he has devoured the opponent and knows everything about Tianyi Dragon King and Tian Dragon King. The Dragon King Tianyi was quite satisfied with his response. He sent out a messenger talisman to notify his younger brothers and sisters to come over, and then shouted outside, "Don't be sneaky, come in and watch if you want to watch the fun." Because of the roar of the Dragon King of Heaven's will, many Dragon Kings and Dragon Lords outside heard it. These were elites in the Heaven's will world. When they saw the Dragon King of Heaven's will returning in a hurry, they knew something was wrong. Now that they had the answer, they came in and took a look. The Dragon King of Tiank had a broken head and was bleeding, and they knew something was wrong. They just stood around and didn't dare to ask any more questions, just watching. At this time, the gaze of Dragon King Tianyi shifted to Luo Bin. He looked at Luo Bin with serious eyes and said, 100 years and 1,000 times the time talisman, 100,000 years have allowed you to reach such a point. I can't tell. You are actually a peerless genius, better than many ultimate dragons born in heaven. Unfortunately, you were so wrong this time. Luo Bin was already in a state of despair. Her voice was not loud, but she was able to say directly to the Dragon King Tianyi, "How could I be wrong?" The two Dragon Lords agreed that Wu Yu and I would stay together. Why did they come to kill Wu Yu? I am pursuing what's wrong with true love? Is it right for them to kill my husband? The Heavenly Dragon King didn't know how to answer for a while. Luo Bin was indeed right. He also promised to give Wu Yu a chance during the Dragon Emperor's trial in Purgatory. It was only recently that destiny had been approved by his father, the Providence Dragon King, and he heard that Luo Bin had made great progress, that he changed his mind and wanted to kill Wu Yu. But he didn't expect that such a commotion would happen. Logically speaking, he himself was responsible, and Luo Bin and Wu Yu were her husband in the mortal world. They had been together for many years, so what could she do wrong? The mistake was that he was also careless. Like Tiank Dragon King, he looked down on Wu Yu at all. But I didn't expect that this humble little person would have such a terrible counterattack, causing such an irreversible situation. But even so, Tianyi Dragon King felt that I am afraid that Luo Bin would die here today, otherwise Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King would not be able to resolve their hatred. As time goes by, the Dragon Kings of the Heavenly Will realm are basically around. They still don't know what happened and are still guessing. At this time, two huge divine dragons flew quickly from a distance and landed next to the Tianyi Dragon King. They were the Tianying Dragon King and the Tianyu Dragon King. They didn't know what happened yet. When they landed, they were still smiling. Among them Tianyu Dragon King said, "Brother, is there any happy event? It's so lively. Did you ask us to come over in a hurry?" As soon as they finished speaking, they saw the Tiank Dragon King lying on the ground covered in blood. They were all startled when they saw that Luo Bin was also here. "Get out of the way." Before they could ask any questions, 3 more divine dragons came flying towards them. These divine dragons were somewhat different from the ancient immortal dragons. They appeared to be more agile and less domineering. They hurriedly came here and saw Luo Bin at a glance. It's Wu Jun, Wu Hao, and Ye Qianing. It seems that the storm has spread, and dragons from other nearby realms are coming here. Such news spread easily like thunder on the ground. Tianyu Dragon King Yanyan glanced at Wu Hao and the others, and then said, "Tiank, what happened? Where are Tianjian, Tianli, Tianming and the others?" Wu Jun and the others came over. It seemed that Luo Bin was safe, so they breathed a sigh of relief. When they arrived at Luo Bin, they protected her regardless of what happened. They knew what happened. At this time, they saw Luo Bin lost her soul. Ye Qianing hugged her, and tears suddenly flowed out. Tianyi Peak suddenly became lively. "Tiank, please explain clearly the process and results," the Dragon King Tianyi said in a deep voice. At this time, the faces of Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King became ugly. They obviously expected that something bad had happened. Under the gaze of everyone, Wu Yu began to perform angrily. No one knows that he is Wu Yu himself. This is an incredible performance. If they knew that the person speaking now is the murderer himself, they don't know what they would think. All this can only be accomplished by the sky-swallowing giant beast. He relies on simulation to manipulate these beings who are close to the immortal emperor and immortal with applause. He cried and howled, "And Tianying, Uncle Tianyu, I'm sorry for not protecting them. I used my father's lost battle situation to trap Wu Yu, severely injured him, and also controlled him. Because Wu Yu with an arrogant attitude, Tianjian, Tianli, and Tianming wanted to humiliate and retaliate and let Wu Yu die miserably. Unexpectedly, he used the 3 lives of nirvana and soul-destroying heavenly technique to burn immortals and gods, explode the power of the world, and Tianjian, the 3 of them died together, and I couldn't save them. All 4 of them were destroyed. Boom. For Tianyu Dragon King and Tianying Dragon King, this is undoubtedly a bolt from the blue. Especially Tianying Dragon King, they are her children, 2 of them are hers. Among them, Tianjian Long Lord, has just received the 8th grade Immortal King seal and has not used it yet. Some time ago, he was praised everywhere. I failed to protect them, and the responsibility lies with me. Please punish me, otherwise I will feel uneasy. I'm sorry for my 3 brothers and sisters. Wu Yu burst into tears and burst into tears. Not only the 2 Dragon Kings, but everyone onlookers almost couldn't stand still when they heard the news. Wu Yu died together with Tianjian Longjun, Tianli Longjun, and Tianming Longjun. They vaguely knew that the Destiny Dragon Lord wanted to get Luo Bin, and Wu Yu was Luo Bin's husband in the mortal world, but he shouldn't be so strong. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1513. Things have already happened. Judging from Tian Dragon King's trembling performance and struggle, there is no way it is fake. However, as for why this happened, the people around him who are not involved are still not sure. Wu Yu. That immortal beast from last time. It seems that after he got the Immortal King's seal, let him be with Luo Bin, right? Then he left. It is said that he went to fight for the Immortal King's seal, but with his strength, it is estimated that he will be at least 5. It will take 1,000 years to go to Taixu Immortal Road. Yes, some time ago, I heard that the Dragon Emperor Tianming wanted to marry Luo Bin, and the Dragon Emperor Tianxin said that he would propose marriage in person. I thought I had settled the matter. Why did the 4 of them go out to kill Wu Yu? Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The inside story of this will definitely be difficult for people who don't know about it, but the details will definitely come out soon. You have discovered that this concubine seems to have reached the realm of Realm Lord God. How is this possible? She ascended from the mortal world only a few hundred years ago. Shock, depression, confusion, all kinds of emotions gathered in everyone's hearts. But for Tianyu Dragon King and Tianying Dragon King, there is only anger and collapse. That day, the Dragon King lifted Wu Yu up in a rage, and the dragon's claws almost sank into his flesh and blood. The huge dragon head roared in front of Wu Yu. You said, destiny is dead. By that Wu Yu, die together by self-destruction. Tianying Dragon King was also confused and stood there blankly. Wu Yu's voice was sad as he said, yes, that's right. Nothing was left behind. I didn't expect that he actually learned such a forbidden immortal method. This was specially selected by Wu Yu. The 3 lives of silence and soul-destroying heavenly technique is a forbidden realm master magic that detonates the power of immortals and gods and all the world to form a collapse world, crushing and engulfing corpses. It is extremely powerful. Once defeated, there will be absolutely no bones left. Oops. The heavenly Dragon King threw Wu Yu to the ground. He was furious, roaring at the sky, his eyes were blood red. At this time, he was like a barrel, and anyone who provoked him would explode. The key is that he was confused for a moment because he didn't know who to turn to vent such anger. Tianjian. Tianli. The same was true for Tianying Dragon King. Her voice was shrill, and she looked up to the sky and roared. These two dragons were quite terrifying at this time. Amidst their roars, Wu Yu continued to crawl. He had to get through this safely, so he could only say sadly, "It's my fault. It's me who didn't protect them. It was my carelessness. I should have directly killed him. We shouldn't let Tianjian and the others mess around, causing him to commit suicide. Please punish me. I didn't protect my brothers and sisters. I should have been with them. I have no shame in coming back to see you." If he takes the initiative to ask for punishment, he will win people's respect. If he shirks the responsibility, he will be looked down upon. At this time, his actions can be regarded as protecting the face of the Dragon King of Heaven's will, so that the Dragon King of Heaven's will can easily handle this matter. "Shut up," Tianyi Dragon King scolded. Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King are actually his competitors. He was trying to get the two of them to calm down, but it was obvious that they couldn't calm down at all. They immediately stared at Luo Bin, and their eyes were quite scary. "You! I must give my son and bury my daughter with him. It's all your fault." Tianying Dragon King was going crazy. After she targeted Luo Bin, she burst out with murderous intent and attacked directly. Next to him, Tianyu Dragon King's anger has also found an outlet. Sure enough, it will be like this. Seeing their overbearing reaction, Wu Yu knew how right he was to let Wu Jun and the others come here. Wu Jun had long known that their anger would be vented towards Luo Bin. After all, Wu Yu was already dead. Wu Jun, the ancient immortal spirit dragon, immediately protected Luo Bin. His huge dragon claws grabbed the human-shaped Luo Bin and rushed out of the crowd in an instant. However, the Shadow Dragon King still chased him that day, and Wu Hao teaming up with Ye Qianning, they could barely intercept the furious Tianyu Dragon King. Wu Jun looked grim and said, "Tianying. Tianyu. You'd better understand that it was your children who took the initiative, forcing him to die together as a last resort. What's the point of venting your anger on Luo Bin? If you do something again, I will report it to the Dragon Lord of the Dragon Lord Association immediately." Ye Qianning also said, "That's right, Tianyu Dragon Lord and Fire Pattern Dragon Lord personally promised that if Wu Yu could obtain the Immortal King seal and become the Immortal King, they would personally preside over their wedding. It's you and your children who want to separate." They still wanted to hunt them down secretly, but in the end they lost everything. Now that Wu Yu has died in the battle, do you still blame Luo Bin? Wu Hao said, "I want to see how Long Zun will deal with this matter. There are 7 or 79 people in the Dragon Sovereign Association, all of whom are immortal emperors. The existence of the Dragon Sovereign Association is to restrict the 9 dragon emperors and prevent them from acting alone. Therefore, even if they are the children of Tianxin Dragon Emperor, it is absolutely fine for the Dragon Lord to intervene in the conflict between 200 or 300 realm dragon kings." With the 3 of them, it was finally clear. Tianyu Longzun promised Wu Yu that he would become the immortal queen and marry Luo Bin. But people later forgot about Wu Yu. After all, it was rumored that Tianxin Dragon Emperor wanted to propose marriage for Tianming. It is estimated that Tianxin Dragon Emperor did not understand this matter carefully. Of course, he would not care about a small person like Wu Yu. But I never expected that Wu Yu seemed to be performing miracles just like before, and seemed to be getting stronger. And Luo Bin also went out to meet him privately. After all, Tianyu Dragon Lord forbids Wu Yu from entering the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm again, which actually doesn't mean anything. But it is obvious that Tianming Dragon King felt that this was an opportunity to kill Wu Yu. He took his brother out to hunt Wu Yu and wanted to kill Wu Yu, and then bring Luo Bin back and force a marriage. Never expected that he would be killed by someone before he died. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The right and wrong of this matter is clear at a glance. Luo Bin is definitely the victim. Wu Yu is her husband in the mortal world. The two have been together for a long time and have every right to be together. Tianming and others, relying on their background and power, want to rob, and finally paid the price. Therefore, when Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King clashed with them and wanted to kill Luo Bin, Wu Jun and others were the reasonable party. Justified, so Wu Jun is even more impossible to let Luo Bin be killed. If they are not here this time, Luo Bin will be in real danger. Wu Jun, you sent the young dragon out of the immortal dragon realm without permission. You are responsible for all this, Sky Shadow Dragon King said angrily. She was stronger than Wu Jun, but Wu Jun was only concerned with escaping and did not fight with her. Wu Jun smiled and said, "What's the big deal? When your children were young, you took them out thousands of times, so what? You don't know, my father wants to marry Lupin to Tianming. You sent her out? You are violating the emperor's order." Wu Jun said fearlessly, "Who said this? You told me? I thought it was a rumor." However, Tianyu Dragon Lord and Huan Dragon Lord promised in public that if Wu Yu could reach the realm of Immortal King, they would personally preside over their wedding. This is something everyone knows. I ask, they are originally a mortal couple, and Wu Yu has also obtained the Immortal King seal, and the only thing left is to become an Immortal King. Why can't I let them meet? Speaking of the latter, his voice was actually a little sad, because he felt very sorry. He was quite optimistic about Wu Yu, and before he suddenly received that kind of communication fairy talisman, he thought Wu Yu was joking, but when he came here, he saw Lupin like a walking corpse, and saw Tian Dragon * crying, all this is reality. He liked Wu Yu quite a lot, so now he felt that it was particularly pity and felt particularly sorry for Luo Bin, just like Ye Qianing, who was also full of tears at this time, but he still had to stop the furious Tianyu Dragon King. In theory, Wu Jun still suppressed Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King. After all, the rumors about Tianxin Dragon Emperor were only spread by Tianming himself. It was probably because he kept asking, and Tianxin Dragon Emperor, as a grandfather, just said a few good words. There was no marriage proposal yet, and it was not the same as Tianyu Dragon Lord's public announcement at that time. So, they wanted to kill Luo Bin. It was difficult. If Wu Yu was not sure, he would definitely not make such a choice, and he would definitely not let Luo Bin fall into a truly dangerous situation. Why did you let them come? Tianyi Dragon King glared at Wu Yu. Wu Yu panicked and blamed himself. When I came back, I was uneasy. I didn't expect her to send a message fairy talisman. Tianyi Dragon King didn't ask much, just glared at Wu Yu fiercely, probably admitting it. This girl is smart and knows how to save her life. The Dragon King of Heavenly will knew that if the two of them continued to quarrel, there would be no good result at all. He could only shout loudly, Tianying. Tianyu. Stop it. They are all gone, and you can't change anything like this. Wu Jun also said angrily, if you two don't stop, I will report to the Dragon Honor Association immediately. Everyone is 100-world Dragon King, and their status is the same. Even if they are the sons of Tianxin Dragon Emperor, they have no privileges in terms of rules. They can become the first, second, and third 100-world Dragon Kings by relying on their strength. On the one hand, there is the scolding of the Dragon King of Heavenly Will, and on the other hand, there is the difficulty of Wu Jun and others. Tianying and Tianyu are so angry that they can't release it. The Dragon King of Heavenly Will can only roar in a low voice, Wu Jun, I will never reconcile with you. My son's death was caused by you. Wait and see. One day, you will pay the price. The two of them are in pain, struggling, and unbelievable, and they haven't even recovered until now. After all, Wu Yu is dead, they have nothing, and their children are gone just like that. Now there is only anger and grief in their hearts. The Sky Shadow Dragon King suddenly cried out to the sky, "Dad, your grandson and granddaughter. They are all gone. Come out and give them justice." Wu Yu knew that the biggest challenge was coming. They really wanted to let the Tianxin Dragon Emperor come out. He was fine, but the Sky Shadow Dragon King and his men were targeting Luo Bin. Wu Yu was already dead, and they also wanted Luo Bin to die. These were all the grandchildren of the Tianxin Dragon Emperor. And Wu Yu had to face the challenge of pretending to be his grandson in front of the Tianxin Dragon Emperor. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1514. In this Tianxin clan, the Tianxin Dragon Emperor is the one with the highest authority. Even if Wu Yu, Luo Bin, and Wu Hao were killed, the pain of losing Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King would not be alleviated. Because they felt that the life of their children was much higher than that of Wu Yu and others, dozens of times more, and killing Wu Yu dozens of times was not enough to alleviate their resentment. But even so, they couldn't bear to see that Luo Bin, who had caused the death of her children, could still live in this world normally. Even if she is just a victim. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. None of that works. Not only must they die, but they must die miserably and be buried with their children. Especially the Tianying Dragon King, whose children had nothing to do with this matter and were just going out to join in the fun. Who would have known that they would encounter such a misfortune? Now, they just want revenge. I wish I could take revenge with Wu Jun and the others. They knew that Tianxin Dragon Emperor still loved his grandchildren, so there was no problem at all if they alarmed him. But the Heavenly Dragon King wants to solve it by himself. In this way, it is estimated that the Tian Dragon King can suffer less. But in fact, Tianying and Tianyu would not target Tian Dragon King, which is Wu Yu at all. Now, all we can do is wait. During this process, Wu Jun quickly sent out a message talisman. He was the Dragon King of the 100 Realms and had the right to summon the Dragon Lord to administer justice. Every time, there was a Dragon Lord on duty. Tianying Dragon King also sent out the messenger talisman. She looked at Wu Jun fiercely and sneered, "Watch carefully, whose world belongs to the Tianxin clan." Now that the matter has spread, many people directly use the messenger talisman to tell some friends and the like. After all, this is big news, and there are many Dragon Kings of the 100 worlds coming here. The specific situation is actually very easy. It's described clearly. From a fair perspective, no one would think that Wu Yu and Luo Bin were wrong. However, after all, everyone is from the Tianxin clan, and their butts determine their heads. Of course, they will not support Wu Jun's side. Wu Jun originally didn't have many friends. After all, he was not a person who followed people's influence. And because of his younger brother and sister-in-law, his relationship with the Tianxin Dragon Emperor's heirs was destined to be bad. No matter how flattering he was, it was useless. Now, it suddenly became quiet, and people were waiting for higher beings to appear. Someone couldn't help it and said, "I would like to ask, how did this little girl reach the realm of Realm Lord God in a few hundred years? This is impossible to happen, but it is also confusing." Wu Jun said, "She used 100-year, 1,000-fold time talisman. Although this thing is not good, the effect is good. Luo Bin's talent is also quite good. It took 100,000 years to reach such a state, and it seems that there is no loss of longevity." This is what Wu Yu told him before. These words aroused waves of exclamation. For the Dragon Kings present, they certainly knew the 100-year 1,000 times time talisman. It was the same as the 3 lives of Silent Death Soul art, which was something that made people talk about it. Unexpectedly, Wu Yu collected it so much of this stuff. No wonder Wu Yu is progressing so fast. How could it be possible? This guy, in order to pursue strength, even gave up his longevity. He is really desperate. But on the other hand, he pursues strength so much that he must also want to marry Luo Bin as soon as possible. This is really. Talking about this, they suddenly felt some sympathy for Wu Yu. This is a real man. He has to support a few people on his back when he is about to die. This makes it seem that fate has destined them to die and break up the marriage. From this point of view, Luo Bin is a bit pitiful. On one side are the powerful and on the other are the victims. There are actually some differences between the inner position and the real position. Now more and more onlookers are arriving. After learning the truth, no one is actually willing to say it, but they really deserve it. However, in this Tianxin clan, who dares to say that the grandchildren of Tianxin Dragon Emperor deserve what they deserve? In fact, it didn't take long for the immortal emperor to appear. The sky was filled with golden auspicious clouds. The bodies of those immortal emperors and immortals were too huge, so they turned into human forms, fell from the sky, and landed on top of everyone's heads. Wu Yu did not raise his head, but he knew that it should be Tianxin Dragon Emperor and Dragon Emperor. We have arrived together. There should be 5 or 6 Dragon Lords, including the Tianyu Dragon Lord and the Fire Pattern Dragon Lord from last time. Wu Yu's body was still full of blood. He raised his head with difficulty and saw among the golden auspicious clouds, standing what he thought was an old man with white beard and hair. He had a childlike face. Except for the color of his hair, his face looked completely like that of a young man. He looked even smarter than Tianyi Dragon King and the others. Be young. He has a calm expression, not angry but powerful, and looks as gentle as jade. In fact, anyone who raises his head even slightly can only lower his head immediately, because there is an invisible and terrifying pressure on his body. Even if he is at the level of the immortal king, don't dare to look directly. Wu Yu can be regarded as someone who has seen Dongfang Chong and Holy Emperor, but the situation is different. But when he saw Dongfang Chong and Holy Emperor, there were too many people around him, and the pressure he endured was very little, and now Tianxin Dragon Emperor's gaze, the pressure that fell directly on him was terrifying. After all, his identity was fake and he was essentially a sky-swallowing giant beast. He was indeed a little nervous at this time, and he was really worried that Tianxin Dragon Emperor would recognize him. But in fact, if he is really the Tian Dragon King, he should be nervous at this time, so the tension at this time is somewhat natural and reasonable. The God's Will Dragon King asked him to stop talking. When the Tianxin Dragon Emperor and the 5 Dragon Lords appeared, God's Will the Dragon King himself told Tianxin Dragon Emperor and the others the story, beginning and end, reasons and changes. Among them, Tianyu Dragon Lord and Fire Pattern Dragon Lord were quite familiar with the affairs of Wu Yu and Luo Bin. After finishing speaking, Tianyu Longzun said, "I remember this little guy. Didn't you say that he is a disciple of a certain immortal emperor?" This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The Dragon King of Heavens will said, "I have checked, and no eternal emperor immortal has such a disciple. His progress is achieved by using the 100 years and 1,000 times time talisman." At first, Tianyu Longzun thought he was a disciple of a certain immortal emperor immortal, so he gave Wu Yu some opportunities and face to become the immortal king and preside over it for him. After hearing that Tianming and the others were dead, Tianxin Dragon Emperor did not seem sad or angry. This is actually normal. Tianxin Dragon Emperor has never shown joy or anger in front of outsiders. In fact, during the long years, he had many sons. Tianyi Dragon King was not his eldest son, but the eldest among his living children. As for the grandchildren, there are more, but basically all of them died because they did not become emperors. This time 3 grandchildren died. Maybe for him, the situation is different from that of the giant spirit god. The giant spirit god worked hard to cultivate the ancient Holmium god, but was intercepted and killed. This was more of a matter of face. Tianming and the others were, after all, the next generation and still young. Tianxin Dragon Emperor did not have much contact with them. But after all, they are also his descendants. 3 people died in a row. Even if he didn't show it, the Dragon Kings all knew that he could kill people in anger now. The Shadow Dragon King and the Heavenly Dragon King were all prostrate on the ground. Tianying Dragon King cried, "Father, Tianjian and Tianli died tragically, and you lost 3 grandchildren at once. Now Wu Jun and the other 3, as well as this bitch Luo Bin, have unshirkable responsibilities. She is also the main culprit. Please father, please do it for me." Tianjian, Tianli, and Tianming took revenge and allowed them to rest in peace. The Heavenly Dragon King knelt down, and said, "Please father, please uphold justice for my son. If this concubine hadn't been hooking up with outsiders, my son wouldn't have been so angry that he would pursue her." There were 3 other people, Wu Jun, who privately sent the young dragon out of the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. "Let them have a private meeting and make my son angry. If they are not punished, how can the 3 poor children Tianming, Tianjian, and Tianli rest in peace if this concubine does not die?" Both of them were also in tears. When everyone saw it, Wu Jun and the others were really in danger. Those who died now were the grandchildren of Dragon Emperor Tianxin. If Dragon Emperor Tianxin didn't deal with it, people would laugh if word spread. After all, even his own grandchildren couldn't be killed. Disposal: is this still one of the 9 Dragon Emperors? The current situation is already quite unfavorable, and Wu Yu also feels very dangerous. What he is most afraid of is causing Wu Jun and the others to be harmed. If Tianxin Dragon Emperor is the kind of person who must retaliate and ignores his image, then it will be troublesome. Fortunately, Wu Jun said in time, "At this time, the Dragon Emperor, as well as all the Dragon Lords, I believe they all know the cause of the matter." At the beginning, the Tianyu Dragon Lord and the Fire Pattern Dragon Lord also knew that Wu Yu was indeed a concubine in the mortal world. The 2 of them had been together for many years and worked together to stay together in the Heavenly Palace. It took a lot of effort for them to be together, so they cherished it very much. Wu Yu died now, so he deserved to die, but the concubine was innocent. As for the 3 of us, we never expected that Tian Dragon King and others would go looking for them. Now that Wu Yu is dead, in front of Tianxin Dragon Emperor, Wu Jun certainly cannot directly say that there is something wrong with your grandchildren, so he can only use Wu Yu to take the blame in order to protect Luo's concubine. If this matter was done in private, Tianxin Dragon Emperor could kill anyone, but now, it seems that the Tianxin clan has been detonated. At this time, everyone is very nervous, and it depends on how Tianxin Dragon Emperor will deal with Luo's concubine. As for Wu Jun and the others, they couldn't say they had any fault. If they were really punished, Tianxin Dragon Emperor might not be able to convince the public, which would have some impact on their reputation, and several Dragon Lords were watching. The existence of the Dragon Lord Association is to restrain the 9 Dragon Emperors. "Father, please make the decision for destiny. Make the decision for Tianjian and Tianli." The 2 Dragon Kings were miserable. They didn't expect that with their status, it would be so difficult to kill Luo Bin. At this moment, Wu Jun's hand was empty, and he was shocked, because Luo Bin had escaped from his control, and the next moment, she appeared in front of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. Wu Yu trembled in his heart. Tianxin Dragon Emperor, was he going to kill her? Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1515. Wu Yu was anxious, but he still couldn't reveal any flaws until it was revealed. But Wu Jun and the others were anxious. 3 ancient immortal spirit dragons knelt on the ground one after another. Wu Jun among them said anxiously, "Dragon Emperor, my concubine is the victim. It was my idea to let her out. I was unable to discipline her well. If you want, just punish me. She is innocent, she has a lot of room for growth in the future, and she will definitely serve the Tianxin clan more in the future. I beg the Dragon Emperor to spare her life." On one side were his children's begging, and on the other were Wu Jun's and others seemingly feeble begging for mercy. In fact, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Luo Bai was the one who caused the death of Tianjian Longjun and the others, and she could also be regarded as the enemy of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. There was really not much chance that Tianxin Dragon Emperor would spare her life. After all, even the Tianxin Dragon Emperor, in the eyes of everyone, has 7 emotions and 6 desires, and it is impossible to handle it completely impartially. Moreover, it is actually impossible for the Dragon Master Association to stand against the Tianxin Dragon Emperor. So people look at Luo Bai with pity. Now they all know the truth. They only need to have judgment in their hearts. Basically they know that this is Tianjian Longjun and they deserve it. But this kind of judgment must not be expressed. Came out. He even wanted to help Tianying Dragon King and the others, and together they begged Tianxin Dragon Emperor for an explanation. If you help Tianying Dragon King and others speak now, there will definitely be a lot of benefits in the future, but if you help Wu Jun speak, it will be troublesome in the future. It is quite clear which one is stronger and which one is weaker between the two sides. Wu Jun is at an absolute disadvantage. Wu Jun has no laws. He can't escape the blame for his impulsive actions and caused such a disaster. He begs his father to withdraw from his position as the Dragon King of the 100 Realms and drive out the Tianxin clan. Even the Tianyu Dragon King said this pleading. No matter how you look at it, their side is guaranteed to win. They really fought hard. Without seeing Wu Jun and the others tearing their hearts out, the two of them would not be able to free themselves from their anger and hatred. Now, we just wait for Tianxin Dragon Emperor's decision. By now, Tianxin Dragon Emperor has been watching Luo Bin for a while. His eyes were always on Luo Bin, but he didn't kill anyone, but his expression was cold from beginning to end. At this time, he suddenly turned his head and asked the Dragon King Tianyi, "What's your opinion?" The Dragon King of Heavens will kowtowed and said, "I completely obey my father." He is still relatively tactful and does not take the initiative to make a clear position. Based on his understanding of Tianxin Dragon Emperor, he actually feels that Tianxin Dragon Emperor at this time is a little unpredictable. Okay, Tianxin Dragon Emperor nodded. He glanced at the Dragon Kings behind him, then looked at Tianyu Dragon King, Tianying Dragon King and Wu Jun. When everyone was very nervous, he said, "Listen, get up, Tianjian, Tianli and Tianming are not as skilled as others. They are facing death counterattacks. It is their own fault and their fate. They cannot blame others. Wu Yu, the main culprit, is dead. As for this concubine, although she is innocent, Tianjian and the other 3 are not. Her death was caused by her, so I will punish her." At this point, he paused for a while. Wu Yu's heart was in his throat. This plan was about to be the most difficult step. His only reliance now is to believe that Tianxin Dragon Emperor still cares about his reputation, especially in front of several dragon lords. Obviously a lot of people are paying attention to this matter. I believe that it will spread throughout the immortal Dragon Emperor world soon. His inappropriate handling will always make people secretly shameless. On the contrary, Tianying Dragon King and the others seemed to think that this matter was settled. After all, it was Tianxin Dragon Emperor's grandchildren who died, especially Tianming, who was quite good at pleasing Tianxin Dragon Emperor, and Tianxin Dragon Emperor often praised him on weekdays. The Heavenly Heart Dragon Emperor stared at the concubine Luo and said, "I will punish you. You will be confined in the Forbidden Dragon Tower for 10,000 years. You will not be allowed to go out. You will reflect on your mistakes and strive to make progress. In the future, you will work for our Tianxin clan and pay for your merits pass." As soon as these words came out, there was a sudden silence. The Forbidden Dragon Tower is where the Shenlong clan confines the erring dragons. Of course, this is not a prison, not the Dragon Emperor's purgatory, but a confinement room. It is just restricted from going out for 10,000 years. In addition, you can practice, everything is free, and outsiders can still visit. The punishment in the Forbidden Dragon Tower is basically the lightest punishment in the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm. It is normal to be imprisoned for 100 years if you make a small mistake. If you make some mistakes and cause some adverse effects, you will be imprisoned for 1,000 years. The punishment for the concubine Luo was 10,000 years of confinement. To be honest, although 10,000 years was a long time, it was nothing if she treated her as a retreat for cultivation. All in all, this punishment was much lighter than Wu Yu imagined. Therefore, his expression was also stunned, as if he was not very willing to do so. Those dragons who thought it would be difficult for Luo Bin to save her life were basically dumbfounded. This punishment was much easier than they imagined. It's nothing more than forcing them to stay in seclusion for 10,000 years. Wu Jun and the others were overjoyed. They woke up from their surprise and shouted in unison, "The Dragon Emperor is wise." Wu Jun said, "Concubine, hurry up and thank the Dragon Emperor. From now on, you must practice with peace of mind. If you know your mistakes, you can correct them. There is no greater good." I'm afraid it was Luo Bin herself who was nervous before and confused now, but she reacted quickly and knelt down in front of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. She said with tears, "Thank you Dragon Emperor for your kindness. I will definitely work hard and concentrate from now on, practice and live up to the high expectations of your elders. The most dangerous person coming back this time is her." Now Tianxin Dragon Emperor has announced this decision. With his status, since it has been announced, it is unlikely to be changed. Obviously, the most unbelievable ones were the Sky Shadow Dragon King and the Sky Imperial Dragon King. They opened their eyes wide, collapsed on the ground, and immediately went crazy. The Sky Imperial Dragon King couldn't help but roared, "Father! She killed your grandchildren, so she was imprisoned for 10,000 years. How can they rest in peace?" This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content below. The Sky Shadow Dragon King even cried and wailed, "Father, are you wrong? Isn't confinement for 10,000 years equal to no punishment? Tianjian, Tianli, and Tianming all died, they died so miserably." The Tianxin Dragon Emperor looked indifferent, glared at them fiercely, and said, "Don't embarrass yourself, shut up. We cultivate the way of destiny, their destiny is weak, arrogant, and domineering, and they can't blame others for their death. If you can't achieve immortality, there is a difference between living hundreds of thousands of years more and hundreds of thousands of years less. Don't forget what your fundamental pursuit is, not children, but immortality." This sentence was a bit shocking to Wu Yu. Sure enough, the world seen by the Eternal Emperor was different from the world they saw. Maybe 1,000,000 years is just a blink of an eye for them, and they all died in the blink of an eye. What's the difference? Only by achieving immortality can you really enter his eyes. This sentence made the two Dragon Kings stunned and painful. They didn't dare to say more, but tears and blood flowed. I'm afraid there is a deep hatred hidden in their hearts. The key is that they don't want to believe that Tianxin Dragon Emperor would make such a decision. They can't figure it out. Although it's said that, although it's all fate, but in the past, under normal circumstances, Tianxin Dragon Emperor would still follow their wishes and execute Luo Bin. After all, they are their own people, and Wu Jun and others are outsiders. After making the decision, Tianxin Dragon Emperor said to the Dragon Lords behind him, "My descendants are incompetent, and I'm making fun of you Dragon Lords." The Fire Pattern Dragon Lord hurriedly said, "Dragon Emperor, please don't say that. You were right before. This is all fate. The younger generations have their own destiny. It's their fate. The Dragon Emperor is righteous and awe-inspiring. The punishment he made makes us admire him very much. Tianyu Dragon Lord is the younger brother of Tianxin Dragon Emperor, so he is not convenient to speak. The other Dragon Lords also admire Tianxin Dragon Emperor's disposal very much. After all, it is reasonable. Of course, if Tianxin Dragon Emperor wanted to execute Lupin, they would not stop him. After all, as one of the 9 Dragon Emperors, he still had the right to execute the enemy who killed his grandchildren. Who else dared to criticize Tianxin Dragon Emperor's decision? Tianxin Dragon Emperor nodded and said, "I won't bother you with the follow-up matters." When several Dragon Lords heard that Tianxin Dragon Emperor was sending him away, but he had already made the most critical decision, and their Dragon Lords were also present, and the next things had nothing to do with them, so they said goodbye one by one, leaving Tianyu Dragon Lord still here. It seemed that Tianyu Dragon Lord seemed a little confused and didn't seem to understand Tianxin Dragon Emperor's decision. After sending away the other Dragon Lords, Tianxin Dragon Emperor glanced at Wu Yu and said, "Tiank, you are also responsible for not protecting your younger brothers and sisters. I will punish you and send you to the Forbidden Dragon Tower for 10,000 years. You are not allowed to go out during this period. Do you have any objections?" This is interesting. Not only did he punish Lupin by confining her for 10,000 years, but he also imprisoned himself for 10,000 years. What does it mean? Wu Yu was a little confused for a moment. However, he was just trying to avoid the disturbance of the Chifeng Immortal Lord. 10,000 years was not too long, so he didn't care. So he nodded and said, "My grandson knows that he is wrong, so he has no objection. During these 10,000 years, I will reflect on myself and learn from my mistakes." This was announced after the Dragon Lords left. These 2 punishments were basically painless. After the punishment, Tianxin Dragon Emperor looked at the increasing number of onlookers and said impatiently, "Go away, why are you joining in the fun?" Seeing that the Dragon Emperor was impatient, everyone said goodbye and left very quickly. You go back too. 10 days later, take Luo Bin to the Forbidden Dragon Tower. The next sentence was said to Wu Jun and the others. When Wu Jun heard this, the matter was settled. He couldn't wait to leave, so that Tianxin Dragon Emperor would not change his mind when he saw that everyone had left. So Wu Jun and the others thanked Tianxin Dragon Emperor and hurriedly took Luo Bin away. The 4 of them left here quickly. Wu Yu glanced at her, and Lupin also looked back at him. This time, both of them looked determined. After all, they seemed to have survived this disaster. Now, only their family members were left, and they were all here. It was obvious that Tianying and Tianyu still had to ask more questions. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1516. Now that Wu Yu was among their group, he could immediately know what the Tianxin Dragon Emperor was thinking. Dad, why, even Wu Jun has no power at all, and the Dragon Master Society can turn a blind eye. Besides, there is still Uncle here, and there is no need to care about the rumors. Why not execute her? As soon as Wu Jun and the others left, Tianying couldn't wait to ask, her face full of anxiety. The same was true for the Heavenly Dragon King, who looked at his father eagerly. After the people left, Tianxin Dragon Emperor looked solemn, and the faces of Tianyi Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon Lord next to him also had doubts written on their faces. Tianxin Dragon Emperor said calmly, "If you hear what I said today, you must not spread it." Hearing that it was so important, everyone nodded quickly, even Tianying and Tianyu nodded blankly. Wu Yu frowned. Could it be that Tianxin Dragon Emperor discovered something? Tianxin Dragon Emperor looked at the sky with complicated eyes and said, "Long ancestor, there has been no news for a long, long time. No one can find his existence. The 9 of us have no whereabouts at all. Maybe it was done by Long Ancestor himself. Even in our memory, there is very little memory of it. Dragon Ancestor? Does it really exist?" Speaking of Dragon Ancestor, even they were particularly confused. Wu Yu was shocked in his heart. Sure enough, this guy saw something. Almost no one knows the inheritance of the four of them, including the Monkey King, the Grand Marshal Tianpeng, and the General Rolling Curtain. However, these 8 heavenly dragons, also known as dragon ancestors, have left some rumors behind, but it is difficult to tell whether they are true or false. Even Tianxin Dragon Emperor doesn't know much about them. He means that even his own memory has been manipulated. But why? What kind of secret is hidden in this? Where did the Monkey King go? Even Wu Yu himself was completely confused about all this. He just vaguely felt that there seemed to be a shocking secret hidden in him. Tianxin Dragon Emperor continued, of course Dragon Ancestor exists, but I don't know where he went. Very few people in heaven know that he exists, and most of them have very noble identities. It's not convenient for me to ask, but we really don't have much impression. Tianying said blankly, what does this have to do with that concubine? There was a trace of awe in Tianxin Dragon Emperor's eyes, and he said, I know that Tianyu and the others can't see it at all, but I can see it. There are some residual feelings for Longzhu in my memory. I am convinced that I have found this feeling in Luo Bin. I don't know when this child has definitely received the inheritance of the eternal immortal emperor level, and the source of this inheritance is very likely to be we, the dragon ancestors, personally inherit. What? As soon as these words came out, everyone including Wu Yu exclaimed. Sky Shadow Dragon King's eyes were blood red and said, impossible, this is a lowly bloodline born in the mortal world. How could the dragon ancestor pass it on to her? How outstanding our children are. The 3 of us are close to becoming immortal emperors. Shut up, Tianxin Dragon Emperor cursed angrily, stared at her, and said, you dare to question Long Ancestor's decision? Tianying, don't lose your mind because of the death of your children. You know what to say and don't even think about anything. Can't you think about it? He was very serious and scared the Sky Shadow Dragon King directly. At this time, Tianyu Longzun tried to smooth things over and said, brother, she was also overly sad, so she spoke uncontrollably. It's understandable. But Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King completely collapsed. They were miserable, staring at each other in utter despair. Tianxin Dragon Emperor snorted coldly and said, I heard you clearly. Although I can't be completely sure, it must be the dragon ancestor. However, the inheritance of the immortal emperor immortal she received must be the immortal emperor immortal of Shenlong, but it cannot be now any dragon emperor and dragon lord, and I really feel the aura of the dragon ancestor from their body, so even if they are not reincarnated or fully inherited, they may be regarded as the disciples of the dragon ancestor. So, don't mention killing her again in the future. From now on, no one of you can touch her, otherwise you know what will happen. He was not joking when he said it so seriously, and he also emphasized it to the Sky Shadow Dragon King and the Tianyu Dragon King. Even Tianyu Longzun said, in this case, you two must completely stop thinking about revenge on Luo Bin. First, the person who died with your children was Wu Yu, and the culprit is dead. Second, in the final analysis, there is no it's necessary to blame Luo Bai, do you hear me clearly? The warnings and explanations of the 2 immortal emperors were all very clear. God's Will Dragon King first said, don't worry, Dad and Uncle, I understand, I will definitely take good care of them and not let them mess around. I don't need you to tell me, I want you two to confirm with me. Tianxin Dragon Emperor glared at Tianying and Tianyu. The 2 of them looked at each other, like deflated rubber balls, and could only nod, saying, don't worry, Dad, we don't dare to mess around. This is a big deal. We understand, and we will never stab him trouble. With this kind of assurance, Tianxin Dragon Emperor felt relieved, which showed how much he valued the inheritor of the dragon ancestor. Tianyu Longzun said again, since our Tianxin clan is very likely to have the successor of the dragon ancestor, even if it is just a disciple, it is not a trivial matter. No one else knows about this matter yet. Brother, how are you going to deal with it? Tianxin Dragon Emperor pursed his lips and said, don't let other dragon emperors and dragon lords know for the time being. It's limited to us. Next, I will observe secretly and make more sure. If there is no doubt, we will not only not be able to deal with her in the future, but also need to cultivate her well, so that she will not have any hostility towards us. We must completely reverse this conflict, and even make her a member of our family in the end. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. A member of our family, everyone didn't understand it again. The one who reacted the fastest was Tianyi Dragon King. He said, does father want us to marry her as a Taoist partner? That's right, her mortal husband is dead, but she must hate us in her heart now. And Tianming has. Originally, Tianxin Dragon Emperor agreed to propose marriage for Tianming. At that time, he didn't know that Lupin had such an inheritance. But now, Tianming is dead. Tianyu Dragon Lord frowned and said, if we can make her a member of our family and bind her to our Tianxin clan, if she really becomes an immortal emperor in the future, then her status in the immortal dragon emperor realm will definitely be different. In this way, our Tianxin clan's right to speak can be greatly increased, and it will not be difficult for us to sit firmly on the throne of the first largest clan of the divine dragon. After all, the power of the 9 major clans is almost the same now. They finally understood why Tianxin Dragon Emperor did not deal with Luo Bin. Not only did he not deal with her, but he also gave her a good impression so that it would be convenient for Luo Bin to be bound to their family in the future. If she really obtained the inheritance of the dragon ancestor, she would become an immortal emperor in the future, and her power would be completely different. This would be of great help to the Tianxin clan. After all, in the immortal dragon emperor realm, the competition among the 9 major clans is also quite fierce, especially in the competition for cultivation resources. There are also gangs and factions among the major clans, fighting openly and secretly. A successor of the dragon ancestor can definitely make the Tianxin clan invincible. This is the consideration of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. Of course, the Sky Shadow Dragon King was unhappy. She said, it's impossible. If she goes there this time, she will definitely hate us to the core. How could she be willing to become a member of our family? Besides, where can we find a candidate? The Tianxin Dragon Emperor said meaningfully, she is still too young. Time is long, and there will always be many things that she will forget. Especially the one called Wu Yu, who is already dead. I can find her for 10,000 years just to make her forget. Next, we have a lot of time to reverse the current situation and influence her. As for the candidate, isn't it far away and close at hand? For the life of the Tianxin Dragon Emperor, Luo Bin's short hundreds of years are just a blink of an eye. How long can a moment of love last? Besides, Luo Bin is still so young. Time is long. After tens of thousands of years, everything should be forgotten. So he didn't worry about this. In his long life, many seemingly complicated problems were quite simple to him. Time can change many things. As for the candidate, when they finished speaking, everyone's eyes fell on Wu Yu. Wu Yu had actually guessed it a long time ago. They wanted Tian Dragon King and Lupin to become Taoist couples. They just didn't know that the current Tian Dragon King was Wu Yu himself. Wu Yu still had to pretend that it was impossible, saying, I was the one who killed her mortal husband with my own hands. How could she be willing to be with me? This is impossible. Originally it was Tianming's marriage, but now it has been transferred to Tiank. But after all, with Lupin's current strength, Tianming is far from being worthy of her. Tianxin Dragon Emperor looked down at him and said, these are all grievances. I am not afraid of grievances, but I am afraid of having no connection. Tiank, your future is much different from hers. If you can conquer her heart and become her man, your future may not be worse than your father's, and you may even have the opportunity to become an immortal emperor. I naturally know that there are difficulties, but you are indeed the most suitable candidate in our family. This is a very difficult challenge, but if you can succeed, it will be a huge help to all of us, so will you face the challenge? Wu Yu was of course willing to do so. After all, he was Wu Yu, not Tiank Dragon King. He almost laughed in his heart. This was too clever. Now it seems that his decision to pretend to be Tiank Dragon King was too correct. Of course, he still had to stay calm, frowned slightly, and said, although it is extremely difficult, who doesn't want to get such a beauty? In this case, I will try my best. I didn't understand why Grandpa also imprisoned me for 10,000 years before. It turns out there is a deep meaning. The deep meaning is to give them 10,000 years of alone time. Wu Yu really thanked his ancestors. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1517. The most desolate thing now is Tianyu Dragon King. He once wanted to get the ancient immortal spirit dragon, but lost to Wu Hao. His son also wanted to get Luo Ben because of this incident, and he was adding fuel to the flames. Now, Tianming died because of Luo's concubine, but he couldn't take revenge and still needed to sacrifice Luo's concubine. His eldest brother's son, Tiank Dragon King, has to replace Tianming and pursue Luo concubine. If he really becomes a Taoist couple in the future, will he be angry to death looking at his niece-in-law every day? However, this was all Tianxin Dragon Emperor's decision, and there was nothing he could do. Now, when Tianxin Dragon Emperor was guiding the Tiank Dragon King, he and Tianying could only look at each other silently, wanting to cry without tears. Now, not only is there no way to retaliate, but I will probably have to smile playfully at Luo Ben in the future. Who can accept it? The hearts of the two of them were naturally filled with emotions. Father, let me go back and calm down for a while, so as not to ruin Tiank's affairs, Tianying Dragon King said in despair. I'm going back too. That concubine hasn't seen us for tens of thousands of years, so she probably won't dislike Tiank. Tianxin Dragon Emperor glanced at them and waved his hand to let them go. As for the details, he has already made it very clear. These two people respect their father and must not mess around. But they have to take some time to digest and calm down. The Sky Shadow Dragon King and the Sky Yu Dragon King were like walking corpses, leaving in despair. The only ones left here are Tianyi Dragon King and Wu Yu, as well as these two immortal emperors. Tiank, everything is left to you. 10,000 years is not a short time, so don't rush it. If you have good news, tell us in time, Tianxin Dragon Emperor ordered. Wu Yu nodded and said, Okay, Grandpa, don't worry. I know what can and cannot be said. I just think about my younger brothers and sisters who have just left. I still feel a little uncomfortable, but I will work hard to overcome it. Luo Ben is indeed excellent. Tianxin Dragon Emperor spoke earnestly and said, Yes, if you can get married to her, it will be a good story in the future. In the future, you need to fight for it yourself. Then he said to Tianyi, You keep an eye on the side. If you have any difficulties, just tell me. Tianying and Tianyu, please pay attention to their movements and don't mess with me. Tianyi Dragon King didn't know that although his younger brothers and sisters suffered a big loss, he himself took advantage of it and a huge opportunity came to him. Now that he and Tianxin Dragon Emperor were on a united front, of course he was willing, so he quickly agreed. Tianxin Dragon Emperor explained some details to Wu Yu again. Because Wu Yu found that he could not recognize him at first, he felt more relaxed and completely assumed the identity of Tiank Dragon King. Even if he showed some secret joy, it was not really revealing, because Tiank Dragon King was not a saint. How could he not be secretly happy when such a good thing happened to him? After the explanation, Tianxin Dragon Emperor and Tianyu Dragon Lord just left together, but in fact, they were afraid that they would often come to spy on them. So Wu Yu knew that even after entering the Forbidden Dragon Tower for 10,000 years, he could not relax at all. As for Luo Bin, she is also a smart person. When the time comes, Wu Yu will give her a little reminder and she will know what to do. Wu Yu and Tianyi Dragon King were left. Now facing the Dragon King of Providence, he is relatively relaxed. The Dragon King Tianyi said seriously, "There is no need to worry about your uncle and aunt at all. This is the biggest opportunity for you. Even if she killed your younger brother and sister, you must treat her as your treasure now, regardless of past grudges. In other words, even if you offend Tianying and Tianyu, you have to stand on the same front with her, do you understand?" Wu Yu nodded quickly and said, "I completely understand. Grandpa is so cautious. Of course I know what to do. Although it is a challenge, it will take a long time after all, and it is estimated that she will not leave for tens of thousands of years in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. I still have quite a few opportunities. Don't rush it, you know." "No." The Heavenly Dragon King was still worried and kept Wu Yu by his side, constantly reminding him that he was afraid that he would screw up and must make him understand that his concubine must be surrendered now. In fact, Wu Yu was laughing in his heart. There are many difficult things in this world, but pursuing concubine Luo is not easy. They have been in love for such a long time, now they just need to perform well, let nature take its course, make the illusion that time has changed a lot, and then get together smoothly, and then spend time with Chifeng Immortal Lord in this immortal Dragon Emperor realm while making progress together. We can live an upright life as a couple of gods and gods. The only regret is that Wu Yu can't use his real name to marry her. This is his goal, and he now secretly tells himself that one day, he will achieve it and give her the status that truly belongs to Wu Yu. Rather than some Tian Dragon Kings. He was recognized as Chifeng Immortal Lord, and then killed Tian Dragon King and the others. He was already in a desperate situation. He didn't expect that the situation would develop like this. This was already extremely lucky, so he could be honest with Luo Bin. Together, they were safe and sound, and Wu Yu didn't expect too much for the time being. He just thought that one day, he would marry her again in his true identity. Now that his luck is good, he is absolutely satisfied. Luo Bai doesn't know the situation yet, but if she knew, she would definitely laugh heartily. I just don't know, if Tianxin Dragon Emperor and others knew that Tian Dragon King was dead and Wu Yu was standing here, how would they collapse? His ever-changing, unnoticed behavior is truly shocking. This chapter has not ended yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. The Dragon King of Heavens was still worried, and kept giving instructions, even teaching Wu Yu how to please girls. After talking for a long time, he took Wu Yu to the Forbidden Dragon Tower. They planned to put him and Luo Bin in a Forbidden Dragon room, so that they could live together in a narrow space for 10,000 years. Now he would just take Wu Yu there first. When the time comes, someone will naturally arrange for Luo Bin to come in. Along the way, the Dragon King of Heavens was still giving instructions. Wu Yu noticed that this matter had indeed spread, and the dragons along the way gathered in groups of 3 or 2, discussing the death of Wu Yu and Tianjian Dragon Lord, and the punishment of Tian Dragon King and Luo Bin. They couldn't figure out why Luo Bin didn't die but was imprisoned for 10,000 years. In the end, they could only conclude that it was because Tianxin Dragon Emperor was really wise, fair, and just, and worthy of respect. Such a disturbance can be said to spread throughout the entire immortal Dragon Emperor realm in an instant. Of course, the reaction in the Tianxin clan is relatively large. In other clans, after all, there are many grandchildren of the Dragon Emperor, so some casualties are normal. Tianjian Dragon Lord and the other 3 just disappeared quietly. Every clan has a Forbidden Dragon Tower. Wu Yu is now heading to the Forbidden Dragon Tower of the Tianxin clan. Everything here is under the control of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. It is an ancient black tower buried in the abyss. It is impossible to see how many immortal formations are drawn. It is deep and long, and it is completely closed. You can get in but you can't get out. Any dragon who makes a mistake can only put away his thoughts and face this endless darkness. The only way to eliminate loneliness here is to practice. Otherwise, there is no way to spend a long time. The Dragon King of Heavenly will came here, gave instructions everywhere, and chose a forbidden dragon room at the bottom floor, which was terribly quiet. There would be no one to disturb here at all. There were sealed walls on all sides. Once the door was closed, it fell into extreme darkness. From now on, for the next 10,000 years, you will work hard here, the Dragon King of Heavenly will give his final instructions. Wu Yu could only nod, hoping that he would leave soon. The Dragon King of Heavenly will left, leaving Wu Yu in this dark forbidden dragon room. That's good now. You can reproduce crazily with your little female dragon in this place, Ming Long said suddenly. No, someone will come to monitor from time to time. Wu Yu rolled his eyes. It seems that you really want to reproduce like crazy. Act well next. Damn it, even in such a desperate situation, the two of you are still fine and can come to such a safe place. Now those giant spirits can't even think of finding you. I really admire your luck. Now it's good, you can reproduce in public. This is not luck, it's my intelligence, okay. Successfully survived the disaster, and cleverly changed his identity, breaking away from the identity of Wu Yu who was involved with Luo Bin. From now on, Wu Yu is temporarily dead. But, after all, he is his real identity. He is not the Dragon King of Tianq. Even if this identity is good now, one day, he will be himself, especially in this darkness, in the dead silence, his eyes are shining, that is his desire to show his true identity. Now, just for Luo Bin, for himself, endure the humiliation. At least now, there is no need to hide and avoid the disaster of Chifeng Immortal Lord. After 10,000 years, they can walk around in the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm. In fact, Wu Yu and the others are still in the Floating Life Tower. The 10,000 years of confinement in the Floating Life Tower are 100 times longer. They have a terrible time. I am afraid that they can cultivate to the realm of the Lord of the Realm. It is estimated that Wu Yu will have to slow down the speed of time later to save them from spending 1,000,000 years in the Floating Life Tower. In fact, although I have lived for tens of thousands of years, most of the time is in the Floating Life Tower. 10,000 years in the outside world is too long. Fortunately, I returned to the Gumo world in advance and brought my sister up to let them become immortals. Otherwise, after 10,000 years, they would not be able to become immortals and would have become dry bones. After 10,000 years, it is unknown whether the Dongyu Wu kingdom is still there. He waited for the arrival of the beauty in the darkness. A few days later, the door of the forbidden dragon room opened, and Luo Bin walked in from outside with a trance. Start the show. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1518. During these few days, she must have had a hard time because she couldn't show her true colors in front of Wu Jun and the others. I guess Wu Jun and the others also comforted her a lot. When she first came in, her face was rather cold, and it seemed that she was more adapted to the current situation. She was naturally tough, and when faced with a problem like this, she knew how to behave in the best way for them. As for Wu Jun, she could only apologize for making them worry. In fact, she still didn't understand why Tianxin Dragon Emperor would give such an easy punishment. She was a little worried when she didn't see Wu Yu for the next few days. She originally thought that she would see Wu Yu after 10,000 years, but she didn't expect that Wu Yu would be in this forbidden dragon room. She felt much better immediately, but she still reacted quickly, made a disgusted look, and said, "Why are you here?" In normal confinement, two people would not be arranged in the same forbidden dragon room. She was thoughtful and Wu Yu couldn't let her secret out, so she said, "How should I know? I came in first." Luo Ben turned around, but the door was closed at this time. She smiled and said, I understand. They didn't kill me outside. They arranged you here to kill me to avenge your brother and sister, right? Wu Yu said, don't think about it. My grandfather made a decision and it is impossible to change it. They all knew that the less they said, the fewer loopholes there would be. At this time, after normal communication, they would stop talking. Luo Ben stood in the Forbidden Dragon room, the farthest away from Wu Yu. She sat cross-legged on the ground, closed her eyes, and said nothing. Wu Yu stared at her, showing a little nervousness, but he didn't say anything either. But in fact, they were communicating secretly. Wu Yu told her in detail what happened after she left. After listening, Luo Ben breathed a sigh of relief and completely relaxed. She naturally knew that this was the best result for them. Then let's perform slowly for the next 10,000 years, from unfamiliarity and hatred, to communication and free talk. There is no need to rush. Just have a process and design some twists and turns. Okay. This is a small matter for them. Don't be anxious. After all, any feelings need long-term accumulation. Anyway, this is also a long and torturous thing. But fortunately, they are patient enough. So according to Wu Yu's arrangement, it is divided into 3 stages to cultivate feelings. The first stage takes a longer time. First, let each person practice, but if there is no breakthrough, start talking and occasionally discuss. First suppress the previous hatred, and then through conversation, let Luo Ben gradually feel that she is not bad. The second stage, as time goes by, more conversations, gradually familiarity, slowly forget the past, and begin to become friends who talk about everything, but still keep a certain distance. The third stage is the beginning of love, but this can't be rushed, you must let it go naturally to get to this step. Now, through a lot of unintentional conversations, the two of them began to eliminate the non-existent hatred. Wu Yu could be eager to move and take the initiative, but Luo Ben must restrain herself. For example, at the beginning, for at least a few hundred years, she had to maintain a look of disgust for the Heavenly Dragon King. Tianxin Dragon Emperor and his people did not know Luo Ben very well. They had existed for a long time, and they treated Luo Ben, who was only a few hundred years old, as a baby. So he thought that Luo Ben would soon forget Wu Yu. It was precisely because of this that the two of them could gradually bring her closer to the Heavenly Dragon King through performance. Of course, they must not rush it. At least for the first 5,000 years, there should be no progress at all. Wu Yu's entry point was when he began to guide Luo Ben in her cultivation. At the beginning, Luo Ben treated him as if he did not exist. No matter what he said, she ignored him and did not let Wu Yu get close. The two of them spent more than 4,000 years together. At this time, Luo Ben's cultivation was in trouble. She really wanted to enter the realm of the 6 realms Immortal Lord, and she did encounter difficulties. Wu Yu was experienced and began to guide her patiently. Although Luo Ben did not respond, she practiced according to his instructions and made some progress. In recent years, the Tianq Dragon King has been very good and patient, which gradually changed her view of the Tianq Dragon King. Finally, around the 7,000 years, the opportunity came. She was about to enter the realm of the 6 realms Immortal Lord. Wu Yu was instructing her. Finally, with Wu Yu's help, Luo Ben successfully advanced 1 level. Now her combat power is estimated to be able to compete with the Immortal King. Because this was due to the contribution of the Tianq Dragon King, and 7,000 years have passed, it is too long, Luo Ben should slowly let go of the original hatred and start to forget Wu Yu. This was a good opportunity. She began to relax her guard against the Tianq Dragon King and occasionally communicated with the Tianq Dragon King about the time for cultivation. After a long time, they could also talk about some things about their growth in the past. Luo Ben's hostility gradually disappeared. At this time, Wu Yu suddenly heard the voice of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. Well done, keep up the good work. Sure enough, he must come to monitor frequently, which made Wu Yu sweat a little. Fortunately, he was cautious enough and did not act too hastily. If he revealed a flaw here, it would be like a sheep walking into the tiger's mouth. Because of Luo Bin's progress, a bridge was built between the two people. It would be easier to go from hatred to friendship next time. He estimated that the frequency of Tianxin Dragon Emperor coming to monitor next time should be lower. Now the distance between the two people in the Forbidden Dragon Room is much closer than before, and Luo Bin will also control this distance. Then, as time passed year by year, they started talking, and then slowly became heart to heart, and even began to have some emotional exchanges, and finally became very good friends through countless conversations. 9,000 years have passed by this time. Next, Wu Yu broke out. With 1,000 years left, he began to pursue Luo Bin. He did many things that moved her and started a crazy pursuit. Luo Bin did not agree at first. And she was quite angry, but after all, he had a lot of time. Wu Yu did not give up even after being rejected. He continued to launch an offensive, showing his love and desire for her with all his heart and soul. After all, they had been together day and night for more than 9,000 years. The front there was also the foreshadowing of the relationship between friends. Although Luo Bin still refused and was angry, in the process, she began to slowly relax. However, she felt that at least at the end of these 10,000 years, he could not agree to the Tian Dragon King. This might be a bit too fast for others. She still needed to persevere. After going out, she would slowly perform in a place with people. It took hundreds of years, but finally, under Wu Yu's intense pursuit, it was better for her to agree. This is more reasonable. After all, girls still like to let more people know that someone is pursuing them. If she agreed to Wu Yu at the end of these 10,000 years, the timing would seem a bit coincidental. After these 10,000 years, Tianxin Dragon Emperor occasionally urged Wu Yu. Time is running out. Let's think of some ways. She has a good relationship with you now. She treats you as a friend. If you continue to think of some ways, there is still hope. Wu Yu is not anxious yet, even Tianxin Dragon Emperor is. In fact, even if Luo Bin agrees now, it will be fine. At most, she will be a little abrupt to other people, such as Wu Jun and the others, so after the two of them discussed it, they still have to insist. The more anxious Dragon Emperor Tianxin gets, the more natural this becomes. Don't worry, Grandpa, I'm sure. Give me another 1,000 years. Even if I go out, I still have a chance. I can also find some other projects and more tricks Wu Yu promised. It's up to you. You have done well over the past few thousand years. You are indeed the material. If you do this well, you will have a bright future, Tianxin Dragon Emperor said. Grandpa, you can rest assured. To be honest, I really like her. There is no woman as perfect as her in this age group in the entire Immortal Dragon Emperor world, Wu Yu said. Tianxin Dragon Emperor smiled and said, nonsense, she is basically the inheritor of the dragon ancestor. If you can make her fall in love with you, that is indeed your ability. To be honest, you may not be worthy of her. It's better for her than the guy from the mortal world before. Fortunately, this guy is dead, otherwise it would be a toad eating the swan's flesh. Wu Yu tried. Work hard, it's your destiny, Tianxin Dragon Emperor said. It seemed that he did not recognize Wu Yu's true identity. Wu Yu can be sure of this. He continued to treat Luo Bin affectionately, holding her up high in front of and behind the horse. After all, in the understanding of Tianxin Dragon Emperor, Luo Bin did not know that she had received the inheritance of the dragon ancestor, so on the surface, Tian Dragon King, Tianxin Dragon, the status of the emperor's eldest grandson is still very high. With such status, she will be moved by her. If it goes on for a long time, she will still be moved. After all, 10,000 years is too long, and Wu Yu also feels that time passes very quickly. During this period, he has been thinking about how to chase Luo Bin, which has led to 10,000 years of no improvement in strength. In fact, he does not dare to improve. Because Tianxin Dragon Emperor is watching, it would be bad if any flaws in his cultivation were discovered. 10,000 years have finally arrived. Luo Bin still did not agree to Tian Dragon King's pursuit, which was a bit regretful for Tianxin Dragon King. However, Tianxin Dragon Emperor still asked Wu Yu to keep up his efforts and think of more methods after coming out. As for him, he wanted to control the news about Luo Bin within the Tianxin clan. 10,000 years have passed. In the Fusion Tower, Princess Lian Yuqing and the others have cultivated to about the 5th level of the Realm Lord God realm in more than 200,000 years. Then the Fusion Tower failed. Of course, their 5th level is far less powerful than Wu Yu and the others. Now that they are going crazy inside, it is time for Wu Yu to let them out. And after these 10,000 years have passed, the dragons outside have begun to forget what happened to Tianjian Longjun and the others. After all, one wave of storms has covered the other. He and Luo Bin quietly left the Forbidden Dragon Tower with very little movement. In 10,000 years, the only thing that has not changed is that Chifeng Immortal Lord is being hunted. Wu Yu has not been caught for such a long time. Those people are going crazy. It is said that the reward has been raised quite high. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1519. After coming out, Wu Yu moved freely in the Immortal Dragon Empire as the Dragon King of Tianq. 10,000 years had passed, and the turmoil of the Dragon King of Tianjian and his people had indeed passed. Only when they saw the Dragon King of Tianq did they suddenly remember that it had been 10,000 years since the death of the Dragon King of Tianjian and his people. The other dragons were not victims, so they naturally did not care too much. After all, the Dragon King of Tianjian had nothing to do with them. As for Luo Bin, in the eyes of the dragons of the Tianxin clan, they were all victims. And Wu Yu was now pretending to be the Dragon King of Tianq, and there was nothing right or wrong. After all, he was of noble status, and no one would criticize him. Those who should respect him should still respect him. With the identity of Dragon King of Tianq, it would be quite convenient not only in the Immortal Dragon Empire, but also in the entire Tianxin clan. In fact, it made no difference whether he came out of the Forbidden Dragon Tower or not. In the Heavenly Court, many people would directly close themselves for 10,000 years, and no one would find it abrupt to disappear for a long time. After coming out, Wu Yu had a gathering with some friends and brothers. The Tianq Dragon King had a high status and a profound temperament. He didn't have many real friends. Most of them flattered him. Someone asked him if he needed help to quietly get rid of Luo Bin. Wu Yu was very serious and said, "Don't mention this kind of thing in front of me next time. She and I have been together in the Forbidden Dragon Tower for 10,000 years. After a long time, I found that she is really quite outstanding. Now, I am pursuing her and asking her to become my immortal partner." What? Everyone was shocked. They never expected it. After all, Luo Bin was the cause of the death of Tianq Dragon King's brothers and sisters' star. When you see her now, and see her beauty and talent, you won't find it strange. You can even say that there is no one better than her in the entire Immortal Dragon Empire at the right age. Although there were some unpleasant things before, we must look forward, right? There were quite a few dragons at this gathering. Wu Yu did not hide his love for Luo Bin at all, and praised her in public, which made many dragons look stiff and did not react for a long time. After all, they still knew that Luo Bin's previous husband also died at the hands of Tianq Dragon King. I saw her a few days ago, and she was just as described by the Dragon King of Tianq. She was stunning. Such a beauty, and with such talent, is indeed worthy of the Dragon King of Tianq. Yes, the past is all in the past, and we should all look forward. The combination of the two of you is indeed a match made in heaven. Although they still didn't react in their hearts, many people had already started to flatter her. When they saw the intoxicated look on Wu Yu's face when he talked about her, the dragons knew that the Dragon King of Tianq seemed to really like her. This is big news. Most of the dragons hadn't seen Lupin at this time, so they couldn't imagine her changes. It was still a little unbelievable for a while, but Wu Yu knew that as long as they saw Lupin in the future, they would never doubt why they fell in love with her. Of course, for Tianxin Dragon Emperor and others, this was a task they arranged themselves. Even if Wu Yu didn't really like her, it didn't matter. Wu Yu was leaking some rumors first, and such things would spread throughout the Tianxin clan immediately. Then, under his fierce pursuit, she would agree, and everything would be done naturally. And just as he expected, within a few days, rumors were everywhere in the Tianxin clan that the Dragon King of Tianq wanted to pursue Luo Bin. People were curious and went to the immortal spirit realm to see Luo Bin, but they didn't meet. Wu Yu and his partner were prepared to spend another 1,000 years or so before the two of them could be together naturally. During this 1,000 years, they had to design some twists and turns. After all, it was still a bit abrupt for outsiders. During this free time, Wu Yu went out to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm and sent Wu Yu, Princess Yuqian and Su Yanli out. They had been practicing in the Fusion Tower for too long. If they didn't go out to hang out, they would probably go crazy. They had reached the realm of the Lord of the Realm, and now they still had the power to protect themselves, so there was no problem at all. Go and explore. Wu Yu smiled and sent them off. They had been together for too long these years, more than 200,000 years, that was no joke. Wu Yu and the others were too lazy to say goodbye and wanted to travel the entire 8,000 heavenly palace right away. Wu Yu also communicated with Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi. The two of them were free and easy, especially Nanshan Wanjiao. It was said that he had already completed his goal of killing 10 million fairies, which was to pick up 10 million fairies and fall in love with countless fairies at the same time. Now he has completed 3 million. This level of madness is really laughable. Yezixi is still more focused on cultivation. After being out there for a long time, she wanted to come back to Wu Yu, but when she heard that Wu Yu was in love with Luo Bin, she was too lazy to come back to join in the fun. In fact, the immortal Dragon Emperor realm is still quite dangerous, so Wu Yu also suggested that they continue to mix around, and wait until the situation is more stable in the future, and then get to know again, and just be free and easy together. He inquired about Chifeng Immortal Lord and learned that Juling God and his men had not given up. Even the eternal Emperor Demon of Hell was said to be walking around here frequently. 10,000 years was not enough to quell the anger of Juling God and Bian Fengdu Emperor. But they must be coveting my 10th grade Immortal King Seal. This was another reason to capture Chifeng Immortal Lord. But Chifeng Immortal Lord had already disappeared in the heavenly court. There was no news for 10,000 years. People believe that this Chifeng Immortal Lord has been hiding since he obtained the seal of the 10th grade Immortal King and has never appeared in seclusion, otherwise it would be impossible not to leave any clues. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. But even in seclusion, being able to avoid the search of so many Immortal Emperor Immortals and Immortal Emperor Demons is really a pretty good skill. Therefore, the Eternal Emperor Immortals must still be waiting. When Chifeng Immortal Lord cannot help but return to the crowd in the heavenly court in hiding, as long as he appears in any city or in a place with people, he will not be able to avoid their search. Just as it happened, Wu Yu continued to use the identity of Tianq Dragon King and returned to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. He had no fight with the world and concentrated on pursuing Luo Bin. His pursuit is basically known to everyone in the Tianjin clan. Rumors about Luo Bai are everywhere. Some people have seen her and found out that she has become stronger and stronger, and she has an appearance that is unparalleled in heaven. Time can change many things. From the beginning it was unbelievable that they were together, and hundreds of years have passed. Wu Yu has been groveling to please Luo Bin. The dragons have gradually gotten used to it, and they are also paying attention to the suspense. When will Luo Bin make Tiank Dragon King moved by this crazy pursuit? When all the dragons no longer feel that their union is abrupt and incomprehensible, Wu Yu estimates that it will be almost done. He could be considered to have completed the task assigned to him by Tianjin Dragon Emperor with difficulty. On the other hand, Luo Bin and Wu Jun still have some troubles. Mainly because it was the first time they heard that Tiank Dragon King was pursuing Luo Bin, they were furious. Obviously they still recognized Wu Yu. At first, they didn't ask Luo Bin, only that Tiank Dragon King was daydreaming. Even those who went to the fairy world to see Luo Bin were driven away. Over the years, Wu Yu has gone to the fairy world countless times, but Wu Jun and the others have always kicked him away. They have long since broken up with Tianying Dragon King and others, so naturally they are not polite to Wu Yu. Pushing him away by himself, Wu Yu really couldn't laugh or cry every time he did this. After all, they didn't know the situation. However, Wu Yu still persisted, using emotion and reason to analyze Luo Bin's future with them. He made countless promises to them and explained countless times that what happened back then was in the past, which was equivalent to saying that it is too difficult to win their consent with an identity that is hated by the father-in-law and father-in-law. Tianjin Dragon Emperor also asked Wu Yu if he wanted to help get Wu Jun and others away, or plan some accidents. Wu Yu analyzed, this is absolutely not possible. Luo Bin is not a stupid person. She is very smart. If she becomes more powerful in the future, what? She can guess it? Now she respects Wu Jun and the others very much. We must not mess around. In fact, it will be easier for me if I can get the approval of Wu Jun and the others. What you said makes sense, but hurry up. Now many people from other tribes have noticed her changes. It's best to make her fall in love with you before others discover her heritage. I will arrange for you immediately if you get married. I will propose marriage to you personally. Grandpa, don't worry. I've worked hard to this day, and I'm sure. Now is the worst time to rush, otherwise it will ruin my image that has been in business for 10,000 years. Wu Yu was really afraid that he wouldn't be able to wait any longer and would do something to Wu Jun and the others. What you said makes sense, it's up to you. Tiank, you performed well this time. Tianjin Dragon Emperor actually praised him. Wu Yu quickly thanked him for the compliment. This guy would suddenly appear in front of him, letting Wu Yu know that he should not act recklessly. He still followed his own pace, talking heart to heart with Wu Jun and the others every day, persevering, and using his sincerity and patience to influence them. In fact, Tiank's reputation in the Shenlong clan was not bad, not as bad as Tianjian Longjun, Wu Jun, and the others had been in it for a long time. Under this situation, especially when Luo Bin herself did not express her position, there was a slow wavering. However, if Luo Bin did not speak, they would not agree. Seeing that Tianjin Dragon Emperor was getting anxious, Wu Yu asked Luo Bin to reveal a little bit to Wu Jun and the others. One day, Luo Bai secretly said to them, "Uncle, father, mother, I am going to marry the Dragon King of Tiank. As for the reason, I can't tell you for the time being, but I can assure you that this is a good thing. I am definitely not wronging myself. I hope you can trust me. As for the reason, please don't ask me. I beg you." She couldn't tell the truth, but if she said so, Wu Jun and the others repeatedly confirmed whether it was the Dragon Emperor Tianjin who was forcing her, and Luo Bin responded patiently. Finally, they chose to believe Luo Bin. As for the truth, no matter how much they think about it, they can't figure it out. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1520. Luo Bin dealt with Wu Jun and the others, and there was no obstacle for the two of them to get married openly. The drama they designed had enough foreshadowing, reasonable twists, and the emotional changes of the characters were not abrupt. There were also ups and downs, which was very reasonable. In the end, they got together, which was also what everyone expected, and it came naturally. At this time, except for the core members of the Tianxin Dragon Emperor's family, no one else knew that Luo Bin had the inheritance of the immortal emperor, so this marriage was also a match made in heaven. People certainly believed that this Tian Dragon King was far superior to Luo Bin's previous mortal husband. Luo Bin was too outstanding, and she was destined to have no good results with her mortal husband. Agreeing to the sincere pursuit of Tian Dragon King was considered to be a stop at the edge of the cliff, and it was considered a true immortal couple, and it was a good match. Therefore, after 11,000 years of running in and getting along, they finally got together because of a bad fate, which was what everyone expected. A long time is terrible for anyone. For the past 10,000 years, Wu Yu's appearance in the past few hundred years was just a blink of an eye. Even if it weren't for the past of the two of them, many Tianxin clan's dragons would have forgotten the existence of Wu Yu. Wu Yu and Luo Bin maintained absolute patience to endure until this time. They planned together, and finally on an important day of the Tianxin clan, many dragon kings attended and worshipped their ancestors in the Dragon Emperor Supreme Square. After the ceremony, Wu Yu, as the Tian Dragon King, once again publicly presented Luo Bin with a gift that he had prepared for a long time, spent a lot of effort to go to various major heavenly palaces, found various precious treasures, and finally made by hand, and gave it to Luo Bin. Then he said some touching words, telling his feelings for the past 10,000 years, admitting his mistakes at the beginning, and asking Luo Bin to give him a chance. With his identity, it was quite rare for him to be so open, so many of the onlookers, including many elders, were waiting for Luo Bin to agree. Even the Heavenly Dragon King promised that he would put aside past grudges and treat Luo Bin well. Although Wu Jun and the others still looked very unhappy, the 100 Worlds Dragon Kings were exerting pressure, and the Heavenly Dragon King was really attentive and sincere, even acting to this extent. Wu Yu and Luo Bin agreed that the time had finally come. So, in public, Luo Bin's face was cold, she struggled a little, and was very hesitant, but finally she opened her red lips and said, "I am not unable to understand your feelings for 10,000 years. Such a long time is enough to see a person clearly. I think, since so many elders are speaking for you today, I will try it with you. If it is not suitable, we can separate again." Wu Yu burst into tears. Ming Long laughed so hard that he doubled over, saying, "You two are really good at acting. You've added more than 10,000 years to your own drama. I'm really impressed. You know nothing. This heavenly palace is full of immortal emperors who can't die. How can I not act under their noses?" Wu Yu burst into tears. "However, what about immortal emperors?" Wu Yu still relied on the ability of the sky-devouring beast simulation to fool a bunch of immortal emperors. Luo Bin agreed to pursue her, and everyone was happy. Of course, she was just giving the Dragon King of Tian a chance. In fact, many dragon fairies cursed Luo Bin. The dignified Dragon King of Tian gave up his face and dignity for her. She was reserved for so long, and she only gave him a chance. If it were them, they would be happy as long as the Dragon King of Tian gave them a look. Beautiful women are always easily envied. Luo Bin's current appearance almost makes the young girls of the entire Tianxin clan feel ashamed. It is normal for her to be envied. After so many storms, the dragons no longer think that it is abrupt for the two of them to finally get together. Others are even more anxious than they are. Tian Dragon King finally succeeded. After the ancestor worship, Tianxin Dragon Emperor certainly struck while the iron was hot. Within a month, He personally brought Tianyi Dragon King, Wu Yu, and a group of other Dragon Kings to the immortal spirit realm. As the Tianxin Dragon Emperor, he proposed marriage for his grandson. As soon as they met, he gave Luo Bin the same top-level Taixu artifact as an engagement gift without saying a word. This Taixu artifact is more valuable than the eternal night sea god halberd. It is called the Shankang Dragon Spring Necklace. It is dazzling and noble. It contains the Shankang heavenly rules. It can protect itself and resist most attacks below the level of the Eternal Emperor Immortal. It can be said to be the best protection. Tianxin Dragon Emperor would definitely not want to give such a treasure to Tian Dragon King, but he gave it to Luo Bin without blinking an eye. The Tianying Dragon King and Tianyu Dragon King who came with him were trembling on their faces and could not control their emotions. Seeing such a gift, their faces could only be uglier. I remember that when Tianying Dragon King was young, he wanted his father to give her this Shankang Dragon Spring Necklace, but he was rejected. Now he actually gave it to Luo Bin, which shows his love for this grandson's wife. Thank you, Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor of Tianxin smiled and said, "You can call me Dragon Emperor now, but in 3 years, you will have to call me Grandpa." This time, the engagement date was set directly. The Dragon Emperor of Tianxin came to the house in person and gave a super gift, the Shankang Dragon Spring Necklace, which made all the Dragon Kings watching jealous. The wedding was completely settled. Originally, the two of them had just been together this month, and the Dragon Emperor of Tianxin did not give them a chance to slowly get used to each other. With his status, Lupin could not refuse. After all, she had been getting along well with the Tian Dragon King during this period, and many people had noticed it. Luo Bin is a little girl after all. After all, the situation has come out, and so many people are envious of her. It is really difficult for him to refuse such a gift. Wu Hao shook his head and sighed. He felt that this seemed right, but thinking of Wu Yu, still felt a little regretful. They actually found that they couldn't understand Luo Bin a little bit. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Stop talking nonsense. I know best what is going on with my concubine. She must have her own ideas. Besides, why is Tian Dragon King not as annoying as before no matter how you look at him, Ye Qianing said secretly. I kind of feel the same way. Anyway, I just feel like, don't you hate him anymore? Is it because of this that Luo Bin likes him? But Wu Yu is more to my liking. But Wu Yu is no longer here. Just after saying this, Tianxin Dragon Emperor asked Wu Jun and the others for their opinions. Even Luo Bin had no objections. She seemed quite happy to see Luo Bin. Of course Wu Jun and the others did not dare to have any objections. After 3 years of marriage, time has passed. Okay. The reason why I have set aside 3 years is so that friends from all over the heavenly palace can have time to prepare. Come here, I will hold this wedding very grandly. The guests I will invite are basically all the eternal emperors from all walks of life. Fairy. Tianxin Dragon Emperor said. Now that it's been decided, he won't worry about other dragon emperors and dragon lords knowing how special Luo Bin is. Now that the wedding invitation is out, 3 years is just a rush, so naturally nothing will change. Now they find that it is useless, the future inheritor of the dragon ancestor has become the daughter-in-law of their family. Compared to her, the incompetent dragons in the eyes of Tianjian Longjun and the 3 Tianxin dragon emperors are nothing at all. Tianying Dragon King and the others are not fools. Although they are still uncomfortable in their hearts, they still have to smile playfully on the outside. He took out a gift and gave it to the daughter-in-law who had never married into their family. After the wedding date was confirmed, Tianxin Dragon Emperor really sent out invitations. He had to make the wedding known to everyone, so the decoration was expected to be unprecedentedly grand. He also ordered Tianyi Dragon King to spend the past 3 years specially arranging this matter. It must be the day of the wedding. He, Tianxin Dragon Emperor, personally presided over it. Seeing the Tianxin clan's preparations in full swing, Wu Yu and Luo Bin were dumbfounded. The entire Tianxin clan was now very lively, waiting for the grand wedding 3 years later. Unexpectedly, we didn't prepare ourselves, but they prepared it for us. It is said that even the Holy Emperor Dongfang Chang'an invited us, Luo Bin said speechlessly. Wu Yu smiled and said, not only the Eastern Chang'an Saint Emperor, but also the 3 continents and 10 islands Immortal Emperor Donghua Emperor, the North Arctic Xianling Dumu Yuanjun, the Central Huangji Huangjiao Immortal, and so on. The holy emperors of the 5 directions basically know each other. Turn up. There has been no such grand event in this heaven for a long time. But in fact, compared to the scale of this time, Wu Yu's status as Tian Dragon King is actually nothing. At least he has the status of the ancient Holmium god to invite such a person to participate. What Tianxin Dragon Emperor really wants is for everyone to confirm that this dragon ancestor inheritor has become his grandson-in-law. Announced to the entire heavenly palace. Of course, he didn't say it clearly, and maybe outsiders wouldn't be able to tell, but Luo Bin's identity would definitely be exposed in the future, so at least he had a head start. Nowadays, the excitement of the Tianxin clan is indeed beyond imagination. There are busy people everywhere. Wu Yu and Luo Bin are around all day long, making others envious. It seems that Yuanzhou Huangdi has been invited. Will she come over? Luo Bin suddenly asked. She probably won't. By the way, does she think I'm dead? Wu Yu then remembered what happened to Nangong Wei. When he wanted to pretend to be the Tian Dragon King, he told Nanshan Wanjiao and the others, but he forgot to tell Nangong Wei, and Nangong Wei also had Fire Dance Phoenix Lord there, so it was inconvenient to tell him. Luo Bin thought for a while and said, she knows that you have ever-changing abilities. She may have thought you were dead before, but now that she heard that we are getting married, she should be able to guess that the Dragon King of Tianq is you. This will put her at ease. Wu Yu nodded, his mind was a little confused. What Luo Bin said should make sense, and Nangong Wei should be able to come out. He thought for a moment and felt it was better to believe her.